Hey guys, we are in the garden today and we're going to talk about broadforks and lots of weeds. When we moved to this property, we built our garden right on top of a tobacco field. And the problem with tobacco is it just destroys the soil. It takes all the nutrients out of the soil. So one of our jobs was to put nutrients back in the soil. So for the last couple years, we've been pumping compost and mulch into our soil to make it healthy again. However, one of the biggest things we have battled is the weeds. They keep coming and coming. And for us, we have a lot of Bermuda grass. Bermuda grass has all these roots deep underneath, tunnels and tunnels of roots. So you can pull something and there is still tunnels that'll come back up. So it's really hard to get rid of unless you spray or something like that, which we are interested in only doing natural ways in organic gardening. So one of the things that we decided to try was the broadfork. And the thing about the broadfork is it's gentle on the soil, whereas tilling tends to be harsh on the soil and mess up the ecosystem underneath, and it also disperses a lot of the seeds right back into the soil. The broadfork is gentle on the soil, but also breaks up those weeds so that you can get them out and keep them out, and they're not taking nutrients away from your vegetables. So let's take a look at the broadfork. This right here is our broadfork. There are different models, but we got the one, I can't remember the exact model number, but it was for really tough soils because we have a lot of that North Carolina hard clay, really compacted. And one of the things that I read about the broadfork is that it was great for growing carrots. Last year we grew carrots and they were just all different shapes and really small and stunted, and it had to do with the compacted soil. So this year we started off the springtime using the broadfork, and all you do is you just push it down into the soil as far as these spikes right here will go all the way down, and this piece right here will hit the soil part. Then you pull it back all the way back down to where the handles are on the ground, and it breaks up those weeds that are really deep into the ground. Now, we broadforked our garden starting, I would say 2 months, maybe 3 months ago we started. By this time, if I was hand pulling weeds, the weeds would have all come back and it would look exactly like it did before I pulled the weeds. But I want to show you the difference the broadfork has made in our garden. Okay guys, let's check out the garden. Come on. All right. So we have two sides here to the garden. We have this side over here that has been broadforked. It's got onions, it has peppers, radishes, green beans, cucumbers, acorn squash, lots of things in here, okay? This was broadforked, most of it was broadforked 3 months ago. This side over here is what it started out as. You can see a lot of this stuff right here. This is Bermuda grass, and this forms all those tunnels, and it also leaches the nutrients from your plants and will stunt their growth. So this is the part we need to work on. What I wanted to show you was that even though I broadforked this 3 months ago, there is very little weeds. In fact, I can come out here every day and find a weed and just pull it. The other thing is we're constantly putting mulch and compost. Both of those together is important. And because of that, the soil is starting to get lighter and fluffier as the mulch decomposes, and it's a lot easier to pull those weeds out. But we really needed to start on a blank slate. So the broadfork really helped with that. I've been super impressed because this would normally look like this over here about this time of year, and I would just eventually give up because there were too many weeds and I just couldn't do it. So I would say as a gardener, if you're doing a vegetable garden and you have tough soil, you have a ton of weeds that just keep coming back, I highly recommend the broadfork. We waited several years to get it. It was a little pricier. I think we paid around $250 for our broadfork. But had I known several years ago what I know now, I would absolutely have had that the highest on my list to purchase the broad fork first. So these are the results. I highly recommend doing the broad fork.